Hello everyone and welcome back to another Doctor Who news video. Unlike with previous Doctor Who news videos, this is no means going to be an exhaustive list of all the news that's happened today because quite frankly there's been so many new interviews dropping, with Ncuti and Varada in particular, because the press tour is in full swing and literally like every YouTube channel that got an interview has dropped theirs today, so I'm by no means going to be able to go through all of those, obviously, but I have picked out a couple of key quotes, as well as we're going to take a look at the behind the scenes trailer that's been dropped on the Doctor Who YouTube channel, which is really interesting and really cool, and there's a couple of interesting things I wanted to highlight here. But subscribe if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated, and let's get right into it. So here is the Doctor Who Season 2 behind the scenes trailer. It's on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. I probably will pause and talk over some bits of it, so if you want to see it, it is on their YouTube channel, but let's take a look.
Hey, camera set.
So I'm already pausing because the Doctor's theme from 2005, the very first theme of the Doctor of the revival is playing. Now I saw a lot of people saying, is this kind of an indication of any like returning characters, maybe Rose Tyler or something? I don't think it is. I think this is just a cool throwback in the music. But I will say, hearing this song play over new Doctor Who footage, I won't lie, as a long-term fan, got me a little bit giddy, got me a little bit excited.
It's nice to be back.
So
The stories are bigger, brighter, more epic. And the adventure.
So yeah, it starts off relatively with like a sizzle reel of all the different episodes.
Are just a lot more of a roller coaster.
I can't believe I get to be the companion. I'm Varada, I'm playing Belinda.
Amazing working with Varada. She's an incredible actor and has brought such energy and vibrancy and life into the show.
Wow! Really, really cool shots here. You get a shot of Jonah there, looking very menacing, so yeah, obviously there's been rumours about him not being who he appears to be. Obviously it almost looks there like he's spying on the TARDIS to me, potentially. I mean, we know that like he had that think tank cap on in the episode 4, in the unit episode, so I'm assuming that, you know, he is going to know about the Doctor. I have a feeling he is going to know about the Doctor and about his past. We get a shot of Rylan reacting to the TARDIS, which is very cool. Admittedly, because he's a big fan, that's very nice to see. That's the exact reaction I would have.
It's incredible.
It's
such a privilege to be able to...
We get to see Varada's Belinda being a nurse. I think it said in an interview recently that she was an A&E nurse, so that's confirmed.
Inhabit this character, this world, and especially with someone as amazing as Ncuti, and be able to travel through space and time.
This seems to be the opening of Robot Revolution, where that guy sort of gives her the star that's named after her. But interestingly, it looks like he's proposing here, so I don't know whether she turns him down, because she evidently looks younger here than she does in the rest of the series. Like, they made her look younger. So I'm assuming this is in the past. One thing I find really interesting, and I don't know whether this is intentional, but the clothes she's wearing when she's younger are strikingly similar to that which Ruby wears now. So I'm wondering if maybe they're going to do a thing where basically Varada is who Ruby could become when she gets older. Kind of like, you know how Martha kind of gets all jaded after leaving the TARDIS? Maybe they're doing something with that.
That is...
You get a shot of, obviously, episode 2.
exceptional.
I love, one thing I love about this era, and I love it about Doctor Who in general, but especially recently, how much of the stuff, in terms of like the monsters and the prosthetics, is genuinely just practical. Like, it's so easy to just do CGI. I love how much of it they do by hand. I think it's just a really, really nice thing to see in like current year, because you don't see it as much as you used to. Green screen.
It was so nice having Millie Gibson back.
So this is interesting.
Bringing a healthy
Millie
dose
Gibson
of...
coming back, obviously looking very disheveled there almost, very distraught. I wonder what's going on there.
of chaos and cheekiness.
So this kind of confirms what I was saying before, that I reckon episode 4 is going to feature a flashback episode of some kind, almost like an unseen season 1 adventure. People have pointed out to me, because I was confused about if it was a direct follow-up to Space Babies, then why is she in blue? But many people pointed out to me that she was wearing a sort of bluish jumper at the start of Devil's Court. So people have suggested that essentially this is an unseen adventure which takes place in between Space Babies and Devil's Court that ties into this series in some kind of way, which is very interesting. And obviously it seems that way as well because Ncuti is obviously wearing his Church on Ruby Road costume as well.
Some mischief, so...
And you can tell it's in the past, judging by the fact that Ruby has her season 1 look, and her hair is season 1 length, whereas everything in season 2, she's got that kind of longer hair. You can see Jonah in the back there as well.
So Ruby Sunday's like a staple.
And again, you could kind of see like the beginnings of a kind of flashback episode here. Interestingly, it is full of mannequins. I'm wondering if potentially it could be the Autons. I thought before that maybe that was a bit of a stretch, but given how many mannequins there are, it wouldn't surprise me. I also did mention that this seems to be in the same building that Henrik's was originally in, so it's a possibility, you know. And I mean, having UNIT have to face down an Auton threat while the Doctor was trying to get Belinda home would make a fun middle point episode. It's also noteworthy that she's got that green gunk on her face from the one promotional picture we've seen as well, which I assumed was from Space Babies, but maybe not. Maybe it's a different adventure.
Like a staple in a Doctor Who world. Anita Dobson. Mrs. Flood is back, badder than ever.
Badder than ever. So again, implying that she is definitely a villain, because I had my doubts that maybe they would do something where she's actually not malicious, but it does definitely seem like they're going that way. Those robots look lovely, by the way.
Each episode is a totally different place, a different plot.
Okay, I wanted to really pause here, because I wanted to say just how cool it is that, like, Mr. Ring-a-Ding is moving around with the Doctor. Like, it's so cool. It gives such, like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of energy. Also, is he carrying, like, fire there? That's interesting. Can he, like, bend the elements, maybe? I'm fascinated by looks. Genuinely, I think that has the potential to be, like, one of my favourite episodes if they do it well. It just looks like such a cool premise.
Plot, different cultures, different eras, different...
I think one thing I love about this series and why I'm really excited for it is just the variety. Like, it really does feel like they've thrown the kitchen sink at this and they've really gone, like, let's just push it places that we haven't before. Let's make it darker. And I'm all for that. That's exactly what I wanted. And I do think this looks really good.
Bad guys.
Like, look at that. Look at that guy there. Not the robot, the one before him. There we go. Look at that. Obviously from episode 4, we assume Lucky Day. I'm guessing this is... Was it the Knocked Kind they were called in the season 2 write-up at the Doctor Who premiere? I can't remember exactly. It was something like that.
It is so varied. It really is the dream job.
It's fun and jam-packed with a lot of thrills, madness, mayhem, adventure. Don't forget.
And then there you go. What a bunch of footage. It's really bold to show this much footage just before the series launches. I like it though. I hope we get more stuff like this in the future. Yeah, very interesting. I'm finding a lot of this stuff very interesting. Interesting use of tracks at the start there with the Doctor's theme. I'm really curious as to like how that like flashback plays into episode 4 and like the current events of the series, or whether it will just be kind of a self-contained thing. I've yet to see a teaser or a trailer that has put me off this series. There's some concerns I have, you know, with like the integration of the arc stuff. Like, I hope Mrs. Flood has like a resolution that like satisfies everyone, because I know if it doesn't, then that's going to really like sour a lot of people on this series. But genuinely, everything I've seen promotional-wise for this series has looked good. I have to be honest, it does. If I thought it looked bad, I would say, but this, to me, honestly seems like everything I wanted them to do. Speaking of waiting and seeing, Russell T Davies had a new quote via another article, and he says, quote, "If you're online and you want to watch episodes unspoiled as soon as they drop, I would watch episodes 3 and 6. Now, episode 3 and 6 are The Well and the Interstellar Song Contest. Now, the reason that a lot of people are assuming why he said episode 3 is down to a leak. Now, I wasn't going to say what this leak entailed, but given that everyone else and their mother said it, I might as well at this point. So, potential spoilers, I'm going to give you a 3, 2, 1 countdown before I say this. So, anyone who doesn't want to hear it can just click off right now. 3, 2, 1, goat's cheese. Okay, the supposed leak, is that episode 3, the villain of The Well, is the Midnight Entity, which would be a very bold move, obviously the Midnight Entity from Midnight. Now, that is both intriguing to me and potentially very worrying. Intriguing because I mentioned in a previous video how they spoke about episode 3 involving Rose Ayling-Ellis, who I incorrectly said was blind. She's not, she's deaf. But they were saying about how the crew were using subtitles to interact with her, but then they get cut off. That bit of machinery gets cut off. Now, what's so interesting about the Midnight Entity, as we know, is that they respond and they repeat like voice patterns. They like mimic voice patterns. So how does that work with someone who is communicating through sign language? Do they repeat the sign language? How does that work? I think that's a really like intriguing prospect. I actually think it could be a cool new twist on the Midnight Entity. The worry, of course, is Midnight is one of the best Doctor Who episodes of the revival, if not ever, and if they fumble it, it's probably going to make Midnight worse for other people. But also beyond that, there's the worry that they reveal too much, potentially, about the Midnight Entity. One of the joys of the Midnight Entity is that they keep everything almost completely, like, ambiguous. You don't know much about them other than they come from that planet. I'm not as against this, though, as I think some people are. I think for me, it will come down to execution. If they execute it poorly, I won't like it. But if they execute it well, I think it could be really, really cool. I want to bear in mind that this is the team that also did Wildly Yonder, which in and of itself had a lot of comparisons to Midnight. So I do think this team could pull this off, provided they show restraint with the Midnight Entity itself. And then episode 6 is obviously the Interstellar Song Contest one. I don't know what's going to be spoilery about that. I believe Doctor Who Filming Locations quote tweeted this and saying that there's like something in the ending that maybe will be what is, you know, the big reveal. Something to do with going into the finale, perhaps. So yeah, I've got no idea what that is, but I'm interested to see it nonetheless. Russell T Davies also clarified his recent comments on David Tennant's podcast vis-a-vis the next showrunner. This was via Cinema Blend originally, but I'm taking it from Doctor Who Production News. Russell T Davies, it's been a conversation when I arrived who would be showrunner next. There's absolutely no detail, no names, no one. I'm very happy and I'm loving it, so fingers crossed we're going to make more. And if you go into the actual interview itself, Russell T Davies said, it's not even a discussion, to be honest. When me and David Tennant talked about it on the podcast, it's kind of a conversation we've had amongst staff every day. It's been a conversation and then it's just the same quote that we've already read. So, the interesting thing I think about with this is obviously, by the way it sounds, Russell T Davies is not planning to leave the showrunner role anytime soon. And that the talks that they have are largely just people within the kind of offices saying, you know, what are the succession plans? But currently there are no names in mind for a successor. Now, that is admittedly a little bit worrying, because one of the issues we ran into sort of ever since Moffat, really, is there wasn't like a logical successor either from Moffat to Chibnall or Chibnall to Russell. Moffat offered it to Chibnall because he was basically like, he took him out to dinner, got him drunk and said, please can you take over? I can't do this anymore, you know, I've got to leave at some point. And then obviously Chris took over. When it came to Chris to Russell and that whole transition, the Russell transition came largely as a result of meetings with the BBC rather than it being Chibnall putting Russell's name forward. So I am really hoping that they do have a succession plan, even if it's just a vague one in mind of like at least a couple of ideas of who they could. But the fact that they've said no names, a little bit worrying, but it also indicates that he's probably not leaving anytime soon. I think my worry with this, though, is I worry that there's a possibility that Russell T Davies could become essentially a Bond JNT, where he's essentially just forever in the job on the basis that no one else in the TV industry really wants to do it, and if he leaves, the show ends. Obviously, that's a very bleak scenario, but obviously, I believe that as long as Russell is showrunner, I don't think he's going to let it get cancelled. But I think if he were to leave, I think the BBC would struggle to find a replacement because of how overwhelming the job is, and so then they might just pull the plug. Do you see what I'm saying? I think I could see a scenario in which Russell stays because there is no one else, and without Russell there is no show. And I don't want that to be the case. I want Russell to stay because he is enjoying it, because then I think you can tell. You know, JNT himself has said he didn't want to do the 7th Doctor era, and while I love the 7th Doctor era, I think you can tell that there's the kind of this undercurrent of obligation, like it had to be made, and I don't want it to get to that point with Doctor Who and with Russell, but we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of Russell and Doctor Who in the future, Ncuti Gatwa was quoted via Newsweek, and again I'm using Doctor Who Production News, shout outs to them by the way, they're very helpful in getting all these quotes together. Ncuti Gatwa has said, thank you to Disney, and also Disney has really helped with the creativity of the show. I mean, Russell's scripts are incredible and huge and ambitious, and Disney has been really able to amplify them and bring out all the creativity that exists in that man's brain. So we got Ncuti there kind of giving very sort of glowing comments with regards to Disney there, of course. Now, it's interesting because from what we know of the Disney relationship, both parties have been very positive towards each other, which to a certain extent they're going to be because they're currently in a deal to stream the show, and I hardly believe that either are going to say anything against each other publicly at this moment. But it does make me wonder, like, are they perhaps trying to, like, not bust a Disney up, but essentially be like, guys, we still like you, we still want you to stay on? I don't know. Maybe I'm just extrapolating there, and maybe this is just him, you know, being nice and diplomatic and complimentary of Disney's involvement because he's working with them, or whether this is kind of some way of being like, Disney, we really like you, please stay. I don't know, but it's an interesting quote nonetheless. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention is there was also an interview in Awards Radar. Not much, because Verada, Sethu, and Ncuti Gatwa couldn't give too much away, but classic monsters and classic Easter eggs for fan came up. So classic is very much the buzzword used. Belinda is an A&E nurse. So the interesting thing with this is they've been talking a lot about there being a lot of Easter eggs and kind of references for fans in this series. That's something that both Verada and Ncuti have very much emphasised in every interview I've seen of them doing of this current crop. And I'm very curious as to what that all means. Speaking of which, Ncuti Gatwa gets asked this question by TV Line, and I'm going to play it out to you because people are speculating it might be him talking about him meeting the Daleks at last.
One last thing you would want people to know about the upcoming season of Doctor Who?
I got to tick something off my bucket list in terms of like
What you want?
what I wanted to
You parachuted
face.
out of an airplane.
I did.
It's interesting that he says he's got to tick something off his bucket list that he wanted to face. And of course, he was dancing around that question a lot because obviously he's trying not to say things, which is fair enough, you know, that's what he's been told to do. But now, I do think there's a chance that this is referring to the African god in episode 5, because he also said he wanted to meet some of the gods of Africa in his reveal, and I also remember him saying he wanted to go to Nigeria, so I'm wondering if that's the bucket list item he's referring to here, or if it is the big bucket list item which we know he has, which is the Daleks' return, which would be wild. I mean, if they showed up, I would be very excited, but I also think with everything going on, is there room for them necessarily? I think, you know, I don't want them to just come back and it feel like they're just there for the sake of being there. I want them to be a big part of it. So maybe it'd be better to wait for season 3 to include them. Equally, I really want Ncuti Gatwa to face the Daleks, especially if, you know, season 3 is still a bit up in the air. I think that is an important milestone for any Doctor to have. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but I'm hoping for the best. Finally, I just wanted to talk about this quote because I found it really fascinating. I want to shout out the Nerds of Colour YouTube channel for this. They got to interview Ncuti and Verada, and they asked this question, which we're going to listen to.
And delving into some of those more personal aspects.
Oh, so cool. The lore of Doctor Who is so rich and expansive and wide, and this character is such a mystery even to like whoever plays plays them. You find out new things about them, new aspects of like Gallifreyan history, Time Lord history, and that's always just like really golden nuggets that you receive. Yes, no, this I don't know what I can say. Yeah, this this season we do learn more about the Doctor's past. And
I think you see a lot of growth.
And then yeah, Verada obviously cuts him off, realising that he's getting a bit too warm, you know, a bit too much towards some potential spoilers here. But it's interesting. He talks about learning more about Gallifrey and Gallifreyan mythology and how he really enjoys that, and that we will learn more about the Doctor's past in this series. Now, a lot of people, including the person I took this from, reckons this is something to do with the Timeless Child. I've also seen people suggest maybe this is finally the Susan payoff we've been waiting for. I really think that this could be anything, but I am very curious to see what this lore stuff is all about. But that about wraps up this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.